My name is Eduardo Bolaños. I've been working in wine for almost 15 years or so. I got started in the wine industry. I would call it more like stroke of luck, where I was working in a fine dining restaurant in Los Angeles, and we had a new wine director come in. I wanted to learn more about wine, so I offered help while he was transitioning in. He said, of course, yeah, I would love to help you out. I'm kind of busy to really teach you right now, but how about you help out in the wine cellar and we're, able to talk. The way I ended up learning about wine and falling in love with wine is essentially he gave me homework. Every day he gave me a different bottle of wine. And he said, okay, I want you to go home, drink this, but tomorrow you have to tell me about the winery, about the grape you're having, and about the region. Just tell me about it tomorrow. I very much got into it and really enjoyed it. And it went from there.
Amazing. Yeah, as you say, there's a bit of serendipity there, meeting the right person at the right time. And so you got your start in the wine industry through doing that stuff out of hours and through the mentorship of the wine director. What were your first professional steps within the industry following on from that?
Eventually there, I was allowed to become one of the floor sommeliers, so I was there for a good while. After that, one of the people in that group left and opened their own restaurant and asked me if I wanted to move along with them to become a wine director. And I wanted to obviously learn more different sides of the wine industry, so I did. And that's my first time when I was a wine buyer for a good while. The place did really well. It was oceanside, Santa Monica, beautiful overlooking the pier. Unfortunately, over time, it just didn't slow down, didn't do well. So I left there. And that's when I had actually applied to a lot of different restaurants, hotels in England and Australia and Spain, because those are the two languages I speak. So I heard back from a 3-star Michelin restaurant in San Sebastian that said hey, we have a space for you. Do you want to come out? So I moved out to Spain, and I was working in San Sebastian for a restaurant 3-star Michelin, and I was learning there more about Spanish wines, more French wines, because they're so close to France. And I was out there for a little bit under a year, did harvest out there as well. And then when I got back, I ended up becoming a sommelier for an Italian group, which is its own different world of wine. And I learned that later because my mentor said, because I remember asking him hey, what's the best way to learn about Italian wine? It just seems so complicated. And he looked at me and said, Eduardo, there are 2 types of sommeliers. There's sommeliers, and then there's Italian sommeliers. And I'm like, what? And I never understood that until I started working with Italian wine, because it really is its own world completely. And just oh my God. So I worked in Italian wine for maybe 5 or 6 years, but still studying all around everything, because I was doing my quartermasters certifications.
And actually, on that note, I have 2 questions, but you've raised another one. Where did the desire to study wine come from? Because obviously you started working professionally in wine, but where did the desire to study wine come from?
So my mentor at the first restaurant, he was going through his exams for the MS exam. He passed theory and service, but he had trouble passing tasting. So the other songs, we would blind taste him all the time. Seeing him go through his study process, it just made me want to read up more. He wanted me to wait up to a year to take my certified, and I took it 2 weeks after he said that, and I passed. So I just kept studying from there, because it is a lot more just individual study, so it's able to do it in your time. You can do it on your own, but you shouldn't, because wine is a community. The wine community is relatively small around the world. Everyone knows each other by one Raj Parr, one Jancis Robinson, but everyone does know each other, and everyone is supportive of each other, and it's really great. I love it because it's wine. We talk about wine, we enjoy wine, it's a love that we have for it, and it's a love that we all share. From there, I passed my advanced a while later, and I took time off because I was opening restaurants at the time for my MS, where I've sat for the theory portion once, and then pandemic happened, and then just kind of threw off everyone's. And
you mentioned the wine industry being very welcoming and very embracing. What challenges have you faced in your career in wine and in hospitality?
In my career, I will say it actually is kind of difficult, I would say, being a person of color, because in California, and even let's say New York and other parts of the United States, if you work in restaurants, as a person of color, especially a Latino, it's more of like you're expected to be someone that, maybe works in the kitchen, works as, a busboy or maybe even a waiter. Rarely the chance that you see them on the wine side of things or even on like the managerial side of hospitality. Let's say I've gone on many, many interviews for jobs kind of thing, and I know it's kind of like they question it more.
That's very disappointing.
Yeah. But honestly, like I had this conversation with like friends that are sommeliers where honestly it kind of is that way with even like with women in restaurants here. People assume that like a woman maybe who's at the front of the restaurant is the hostess, but like she might be the general manager of the restaurant. That's been the case for female friends of mine, and it's just like no. A lot of assumptions essentially.
And actually on that note, would you have any advice for people wanting to work in the wine or hospitality industries who maybe are from a minority, whether it's people of color or, as you say, women, still sadly to this day?
That's I would say like try your best not to let those kind of people get you down. It's more of a like kill them with kindness thing and just be like confident with like what you know, because usually with regards to a lot of those people, they don't know that much about food or wine, and it's just kind of like honestly again like their assumption. It's more of a like show them what you know and they'll kind of like shut them up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like sort of, have confidence and master your own fate and show that you know what you're doing and the work speaks for itself.
Exactly.
With all of that said, you mentioned a bit earlier the Master Sommelier qualification, and obviously that ties in well to the scholarship you've received from the foundation. So I wanted to ask, where did you first hear about the Gérard Basset Foundation and about the Taylor's Port scholarships?
I first heard about the foundation from one of the previous winners, Sandeep, who won the year before I did. I still moonlight in sommelier, but I work at a retail shop that's like really well known, and I was quite literally like sitting like on the counter doing some work, and I just hear like out of the corner like Eduardo, and I'm like Eduardo, I'm like what? I'm like oh my god, and it's like Sandeep. I'm like dude, like he's based in Chicago, that's why. And we proceeded to talk because I know he had a small wine shop in Chicago, and unfortunately they closed around the pandemic or like post-pandemic. And I just remember like him posting about it, and I saw like, hey, I'm so sorry to hear about your shop. Like I hope everything was okay. He's like, yeah, but luckily like I'm able to like take the year off, and I'm like, I'm sorry, how are you able to just take the year off? And then he proceeded to tell me about the foundation. He's like, well, basically this is what's going on. So have you ever heard of the Gérard Basset Foundation? I'm like, I've heard of Gérard Basset, but I've never heard of the foundation. And he's like, oh, so this is what it is. And he proceeded to tell me all about it. And then he sent me like all of the information for like, you should apply these days. And then I remember I signed up, and I remember I emailed you because I asked if it was okay that I was part of the American court and not part of like the UK court system. And you're like, no, that's completely fine. I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, and I'm very happy that Sandeep came into the store that day.
Again, another moment of serendipity.
Yeah, and that I was there, exactly.
And so, having now had chance to start on your scholarship journey, could you tell us a little bit about what impact the Taylor's Port Scholarship has had on you?
The Taylor's Port Scholarship honestly has helped me out quite a bit. Being able to take time off is a luxury I could not afford before, and being able to like visit all these places that I've been to so far, it's been pretty incredible. Like just going and like visiting wineries and talking to the winemakers and like just honestly walking through the vineyards has been like quite lovely. Being in Bordeaux was just like so like fantastic. Actually, like even like hanging out meeting the winemakers. I think I sent you guys the videos of like being at Spencer Lafitte and then going to Chateau d'Yquem. That was like very, very nice. But honestly, it's something that I wouldn't have been able to do that easily by myself. Honestly, the financial support has been very helpful. And again, it's one of those things where it's like need support to, be able to do these things to help you continue like my education in regards to like finishing my Master Sommelier. But it's honestly just been really a big relief and a lot of help.
I'm very, very glad to have been able to support you in that, and I can assure you it's very well earned and very well deserved. So, bravo. So, with that said, imagine the scene. So, you continue with your scholarship program and you get the Master Sommelier. What do you hope to do next with what you've learned from the scholarship, and how do you want to carry that forward?
On that side of things, once I pass the exam, will be a big relief on that if I pass. I'm very happy about that. Obviously celebrate. But I actually do want to do more education in regards to wine, but not like education for, not that I don't want to help out the Court of Masters, but more education for areas of like, honestly, people of color and communities that don't have access to wine like they do now. And it's honestly a big deal to me because it's not something a lot of these communities have access to. And it's something I do want to showcase more. In the Latino community here in California, there is a lot more garage winemakers that are starting to like make wine, and it's still like a very small community of, a handful, but there's still just a lack of knowledge of like the rest of the wine world all around. Yes, there's some here in California, thankfully, because we're like the state for it, but it's a lot that's lacking in a lot of areas, and I want those doors to open for more people.
One thing I do want to ask, this is more of a fun question, but you said it in New York, and you said it today, and I love this expression. What does moonlighting as a sommelier mean?
Moonlighting as a sommelier is honestly still picking up like sommelier shifts in restaurants when they need help. And I was very well known in Los Angeles pre-pandemic because I was honestly on the payroll for about half a dozen restaurants. A small community, like I know like all these people kind of thing. And they're like, hey, like, or someone called in sick, or, we need an assist kind of thing. Can you come help out? Or like, I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. So I would just, put on a suit, show up and like work the floor because I may not know their wine list 100%, but I know what they have and I know how to like talk to people about wine and I know how to pair food. So I would honestly just jump in. I still do that from time to time, not as much as I used to, but I know that like a lot of people still do that in New York and San Francisco, where it's just like, hey, can you help out like on this day or this night? I'm like, yeah, of course.
There's something you said there where you said like, yeah, sure, and I throw on a suit. I was like, just change the word suit for costume and you're a superhero, basically, to these restaurants. Do you have any advice you would give to anyone else who's thinking about applying for a Gérard Basset Foundation scholarship?
Advice for any other applicants, I would say reach out to the people that you know that are involved in the foundation, because everyone I've talked to has been amazing. Reach out to me, reach out to the other scholarship winners or anyone, honestly, because we're here to help. This is such a supportive community and you shouldn't feel nervous or hesitant to reach out.
Well, that's very touching to hear. I'm very glad that we've been able to bring that to you, Eduardo. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you through it.
I think it's been worse for you guys because I just tell you guys terrible jokes, but yes.